So I wanted to talk about getting the title to your property. I was quite surprised that a significant number of you didn't know that you could do it yourself and not just rely on your lawyer to do it for you. In my experience, I wouldn't trust them to tell you everything, and I would want to double check things myself. Most people never actually get the deeds sent to them by their lawyer, they just register them for you. It's really easy to do. You can do it on the government website in the UK. It's on the state or regional government sites in Australia and Canada. And in the US, it's at county level. Just be aware to double check what information you get, because in the UK, Canada and Australia, it's centralised. So you get the title and deeds all in one place. Whereas in the US, you have to apply to two different places to get the information. So just to very briefly talk through the UK, search for title deeds, but be aware of sponsored results. There are companies out there who very cleverly charge you 5 times what you need to pay to give you the same information. Make sure you're clicking on the government site for England, Scotland, wherever you are. Scroll down, this is the government.uk site, and on here, look, you need this link. Click through, and what you're really looking for in all this bump is the big green button. Read everything else at your leisure. Search by postcode and it will bring up a list of the property names. This is the one for the house in Birkbeck Hill. So instantly it tells you a very brief summary of the address and who owns it. This screen says it's freehold, how much they paid for it and when. But what you really want is the documents. You do need to sign up for an account, but don't get into a panic. You don't need lots of legal information. It's just an email and password, so nothing too complicated. Once you've got an account and you're logged in, it then shows you what the available documents are. Here in the UK, it's standard for there to be a title register, which is the information in writing, and then the title plan, which is the drawing of the area, so I'm going to get both now. You don't have to do this. If you're buying a standard house in some residential area or development, there's very unlikely to be anything major on them. I always do it if I'm looking at property that's in the country or has land, because it would show you if there are any rights of way, it shows you boundaries, it shows you any nearest issues. If it's not freehold, it tells you who the leaseholder is. Realistically, in the UK, it's £14. This is probably the biggest thing you're ever going to buy in your life. You spend hundreds of thousands on the property and thousands on searches and lawyers and everything else. So why wouldn't you spend $20 finding out what's on the legal documentation? I'm going to buy these two. You go through and pay. I don't bother viewing them in here. If you actually look across the top, you can see that it's got all the information in sections, but I just download them straight away so that I've got them saved. Then I'll just go back and get the other one. It's a slightly clunky system. You have to view it before you can download it, and that's it. Just to add that you might not always find things by postcode, so you can look things up in other ways. The obvious one is via a map, and you definitely have to do that if you're buying a piece of land or a piece of property that has been hived off from a bigger estate, like a barn conversion that hasn't been registered yet. You can put in a postcode or town to get you into roughly the right area, and then search using the map. So what do you actually get? Well, the first thing to show you is the title plan, which for this property is fairly boring because these houses are just a terrace. But it does show you the extent of your property. Clearly, if it's something that might be in dispute, that's something you need to know about. I once had a solicitor stop the process of a purchase without telling me, because the surveyor had decided that a 150-yard land boundary was out by 1 foot, and he had decided in his wisdom that that was enough to stop the purchase of a property I was trying to buy. I would always check all this information yourself, because I don't trust a lot of them. The title deeds show you who the current owner is, which I find quite shocking in terms of data protection, but this is excluded because it's considered public information. It shows you the name and the address and how much they paid. So it doesn't always show this. It does depend on when the property was sold. If it was 30 or 40 years ago, it probably doesn't show the sale price. You then get a short amount of information about the background, depending on the property. Sometimes it's a lot more than this. This property was registered in 1912, so you know when it was built and that it's freehold. You then get a bit of information about the proprietorship, and again, this depends on how many people have owned it and how up to date. Then the charges register shows that it was part of an estate which was sold in October 1858 to William Farr, William Steele and Edward Clark. You can see that the current owner's got a mortgage with Barclays. Again, quite shocking, I think. But I think they got a new mortgage because they bought this in 2014. So maybe they remortgaged it and it's been updated on the deeds. That doesn't always seem to happen. So you do get a variety of information depending on the type of property, where it is, how old it is, and that sort of thing. You never know what you're going to get. On here you would also get any rights of way, any rights or restrictive covenants. All of that sort of thing would be marked on the deeds and the plan. Now this one's fairly boring, it's a terraced house, but the new house should be more interesting because as you can see here, the property is split first of all into two deeds, and then this top one, which contains the actual house, is then somehow split again between two types of deeds. I don't know what's going on there. I'll do that in another video, but clearly this one is far more interesting.